When I was a child, it seemed like the Bermuda Triangle was in the news quite often. Perhaps it seemed that way because I was a kid, and being a kid, it worried me that the Bermuda Triangle was something that I'd have to deal with as I grew up. Now, I know, you know how things seem when you're a kid. It's kind of like how TV shows like The Dukes of Hazzard or maybe Wonder Woman, I think, they made it seem like quicksand would be a big deal too as you're growing up. But I don't recall ever seeing quicksand. As a matter of fact, I've never had to deal with the Bermuda Triangle either. Hadn't even really even given the Bermuda Triangle much thought lately until last week. I was scrolling through my newsfeed on Facebook and I came across a post that talked about several ships that had gone missing in the area of the Bermuda Triangle. So, guess what we're talking about today?
Triple serious Charlie mystery, murder, and magic, heroes, and Alice.
Good morning and welcome to episode 28 of Mystery, Murder, and Magic. I'm doing this episode without Alex today. He had other things to do, so I'm riding solo. There's several different theories that surround the Bermuda Triangle, but when I started my research for today's episode, I started with Google, and while I was scrolling down the results, over on the right-hand side, there was a question that someone had asked that caught my attention, and I got a little giggle from it. The question was, can the Bermuda Triangle be a tunnel of space-time? Well, the answer that somebody had given was it could. Then again, it could also be a tunnel to Area 51 down there. And then they gave a little smiley. So I thought that was pretty funny. But what do we know about the Bermuda Triangle? I mean, it's also referred to as like the Devil's Triangle, but it's one of the most mysterious places on Earth, and it's not really even an official place. So, the Bermuda Triangle is located, it's like an imaginary triangle out in the northern Atlantic Ocean. Its three sides or borders are formed by, like, the point, or I guess the tip of the triangle, you could say, is located off the coast of Miami, Florida. And then it stretches southwest to Puerto Rico and then goes north to Bermuda, and it just forms a triangle. But anyway, you won't find that triangle anywhere on Google Maps or really any map because it's just not a real place as far as like being an official place. So why is it a thing if it's not an official area on any map? Well, many explainable, or unexplainable, I should say, and mysterious events have happened in the area. Dozens of ships and airplanes have just plain out disappeared while traveling in the area of the triangle, taking along with them the people on these ships and airplanes. Now, as far back as Christopher Columbus sailing through that area, odd occurrences have taken place there. Columbus reported that he saw a great flame of fire that crashed into the ocean one night. It's thought that that great flame was a meteor. And then a few weeks later, he also wrote that he had saw a strange light that appeared in the distance in that same area. Another thing that he noted was that there had been like erratic compass readings while passing through. After that, Shakespeare's play, The Tempest, enhanced the area's feel of mystery. That play was based on a true-to-life Bermuda shipwreck. But the mysteries didn't really start appealing to people until around the 20th century, when in March of 1918, the USS Cyclops sank somewhere between Barbados and the Chesapeake Bay, taking with it over 300 men and 10,000 tons of manganese ore. The USS Cyclops was a 542-foot-long Navy cargo ship, so it's not like some little boat that just disappeared. It was a pretty big ship. The ship was equipped with modern, for those days, technology, so it was able to send an SOS, but it never did. No wreckage has ever been found as of now. And I mean, that's been so long ago. I mean, seriously. But get this, 23 years later, two of the Cyclops' sisters disappeared in the same area. Now, soon after that, almost like clockwork, more ships started disappearing in that area, and then it became where it wasn't just ships. In December of 1945, 5 Navy bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale with a total of 14 men on those planes. They were heading out to practice some bombing maneuvers over a nearby shoal area. For whatever reason, the leader's compasses malfunctioned and he became drastically lost. I mean, he was lost, okay? The squadron flew around trying to figure out where they were, but eventually they all ran out of fuel and had to basically just crash into the ocean. That same day, a rescue plane was sent out with 13 men on board, and it disappeared also. After a massive search that lasted for weeks, no evidence of the planes or the men was found, and the official Navy report said that it was as if they had flown to Mars. Now, the most recent tragedy to be blamed on the Bermuda Triangle happened almost 6 years ago, and it involved a cargo ship. The official cause of the disappearance of the ship was ruled to have been caused by Hurricane Joaquin, but it still happened in the area of the devious triangle. This ship's name was El Faro, and on board was 33 men and women. It was the greatest loss of a U.S. ship in the past 35 years. The last message received from El Faro was, there is a hurricane out here and we are heading straight into it. Now, the Coast Guard suspended its search 6.5 days in after it began, but the NTSB continued its investigation. And the owner of this ship, which was Tote Maritime, it came under fire from relatives of those that had been on this ship because they felt that it was irresponsible and greedy to send a ship out with a crew on it when they already knew that Hurricane Joaquin was churning in that area that they were going to be traveling through. Well, the following January, footage was released that was obtained from an unmanned device, and it showed the wreckage of El Faro on the ocean floor. However, the bodies of those 33 that were on board are still missing. Well, finally, in April of 2016, the data recorder from the ship was recovered. And it took them a while, but in December of that same year, it revealed that the recorder had picked up twice that the crew had urged the captain of the ship to change course to avoid the storm. Now, later the captain is heard downplaying the conditions, and he even said, "This is every day in Alaska." 2 hours after that, the El Faro was taken on water, and the captain finally said, "We've got a problem." 2 distress calls from the captain was made shortly after that, and it's also been revealed that storm information that had been emailed to the captain wasn't even downloaded for almost 6 hours. Now, I'm not sure why anybody would risk other lives like that and not to, do everything they could to save their crew and ship. I don't know what he had in mind. Now, numerous ships and planes have disappeared in the area known as the Bermuda Triangle. Some of the stories are pretty fascinating. In 1881, a 210-foot schooner named the Ellen Austin set sail from New York on the way to England. Along the way, they came across a ship that appeared to be abandoned near the Bermuda Triangle. Captain Baker of the Ellen Austin asked to observe the ship for 2 days, just to make sure it wasn't a trap, because pirates were known to play such tricks in order to take over ships. Well, after those 2 days were up, and there had been no sign of, the crew or any response from them, Captain Baker and his crew they boarded that abandoned ship only to find that the crew was completely gone and the cargo was just fine. They decided to tow the abandoned ship. So to do that, what he did was he put a prize crew on the abandoned ship. Now, if you didn't already know, because I wasn't quite positive what a prize crew is, but it selected members of a ship chosen to take over operations of a captured ship. But in this case, it wasn't a captured ship, it was an abandoned ship. Well, after spending 2 days on calm waters, the two ships became separated due to strong winds, and the once abandoned ship that, they were trying to bring back to port or whatever, it just disappeared again. Well, once the storm had passed, there was a crew member in the crow's nest, and he spotted that other ship with his spyglass. Now, after some time, the Ellen Austin caught up with it, but it was abandoned again. None of the prize crew was found to be on the ship, and no one knows what happened to them. Now, on December the 22nd, 1967, and I thought this one was really odd. But anyway, on December 22nd, 1967, Dan Barak and his friend Father Patrick Horgan set out from Miami on Dan's cabin cruiser, and that cabin cruiser's name was Witchcraft. They were going out to sea to enjoy the Christmas lights on the Miami shore. Sorry about that. But after they reached 1 mile from the shore, Dan radioed the Coast Guard and told him that his boat had struck something in the water, and even though everything appeared to be fine, he was asking to be towed back in. Now, it only took the Coast Guard like 19 minutes to reach the coordinates that Dan had provided, and they even left like immediately after they received that call. But when they got there, there was no sign of the boat or the passengers. Dan's boat wasn't just a small boat. It was like, it was supposed to be virtually unsinkable, but of course they said that about Titanic too. But anyway, and not only was it supposed to be virtually unsinkable, but it had it was equipped with all kinds of life-saving devices like life jackets, lifeboats, flares, and other things. But none of them was ever used, and the boat was just plain out and gone. Now, over the next few days, the Coast Guard searched hundreds of square miles, but they were unsuccessful in finding neither the ship or the men. Even to this day, 53 years later, nothing has been found of it. Now, as you can imagine, there's some pretty wild theories that attempt to explain what causes these disappearances. One theory is methane gas. Now, this is pretty it could happen, right? Studies have proven that very large quantities of methane gas exist on the ocean floor in some spots. Some experts believe that if that gas was to be released into the air, it could very well cause planes to crash and ships to sink. And it could happen so fast that there would be no time to radio for help or to abandon ship. It would just happen and you wouldn't even know what hit you. Another theory comes from the science fiction community, and it's the wormhole theory. Basically, a wormhole is a shortcut through space and time, and it can maybe even cause, enable you to time travel. Now, wormholes have never really been proven to exist, but that's not stopping some from saying that this is probably what is going on with the Bermuda Triangle. They've even gone so far as to say that wormholes are the explanation to why some of the planes and ships have never been recovered after they disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. And then there's the water spout theory, and we do know that water spouts exist. And I just saw a video the other day that someone had taken. It was off the coast of Florida. It was this really big water spout, and it's kind of scary to see. You're just enjoying your day at the beach, and suddenly, that appears in the water. So, yeah, it was on the coast of Florida, so that makes you think, right? Anyway, water spouts are basically like twisters in the ocean. So it stands to reason that maybe there's been some that were capable of sucking up ships and maybe airplanes too. And another fact about it is that water spouts have been seen in the area of that triangle. That, along with high violent waves that are capable of capsizing a ship, produced by the Gulf Stream, which is located at the edge of the triangle. And we're talking about waves that are like hundreds of feet high, and they hit with no warning at all. So it sounds like a reasonable explanation in my opinion, but what goes up must come down, right? So where are those ships after they've been sucked up? Now, like I mentioned earlier, it seems that compasses have a real problem with pointing to the true north in the area of the Bermuda Triangle. This also happens not just in the Bermuda Triangle, but it happens in the Gobi Desert also. So, why? Well, some people think that there's a hole in the planet's electromagnetic forces. So, I mean, that's a possible explanation. And then there's the boring theory that it could just be human error. And it does seem logical, but you have to wonder, with so many disappearances, can that many human errors have been made, and especially in one area? Is there maybe something that overtakes the pilots on airplanes and the crew members on ships, causing them to become like disoriented or whatever, and then they crash their airplane or do something that causes the ship to capsize? Who knows? But some people are, they chalk it up to just human error. Now, others think that it's no mystery at all. They think that there's no more disappearances there than in any area, of the world. So, they cite the fact that so many other planes and ships travel through the area with no issues at all. So maybe it's just coincidence. And I guess that could be possible too. It's just a coincidence. And finally, we have my favorite theory, and that's aliens. There's absolutely no evidence that aliens have caused any of the disappearances, but as we know, when in doubt, blame the aliens. Remember that one of the final scenes in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when the pilots returned to Earth from on board that alien ship? Well, maybe it's that Steven Spielberg knows something that we don't. You never know. Well, do you have a theory about the Bermuda Triangle? I mean, I'm sure, somebody out there has like thoughts. And if you do, we would really certainly love to hear it. You could email it to us at 3mpodcast3@gmail.com. Well, that's all I have today. Thanks for listening in. Don't forget to tune in on Wednesday for the Midweek Mini and on Saturday for the Weekend Weird Files. Y'all have a good rest of your day.